We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Back live here on, what is it, Thursday? I don't even know what day it is anymore. You know,
when you Wednesday all day.
When you skip enough of these shows, doing the show is the only way I keep track during the week. So I'm blaming you that I don't even really have any idea what it is.
Yes, it's all my fault. I have no regret though.
I can see that you got a nice bronze shade about you over there. You spent nearly a week in Puerto Rico. Jared, how was the trip? You look refreshed. You look like you accomplished what you wanted to accomplish over there.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if you have never been to Puerto Rico, I recommend going. You know, you don't need a passport. It's you're still American territory, and great. I learned 4 or 5 Spanish words. So if I say gracias throughout here, then it's just my bilingual sneaking out.
Here we go. All right.
Pina colada, gracias, hola. I can keep going if you want. Those are the Spanish words that I learned. So.
I mean, not only did you learn Spanish while you were out there, but you also sent me some great shots. Jared, you and I were talking about them before we went live. Some very, informative shots from the beach. It looked like a phenomenal view that you had out there in Puerto Rico.
It was beautiful. I'm telling you, like I said, if you have never been and you can afford to go. And I apologize for that. I did not see that. That's a me and you thing. Yeah.
That's an
great views. Great views.
All right. Well, I am happy to be back on this. Matt Kirby, good to see you. Tyler, welcome. Brady, good to see you. Jill, good to see you as well. This is supposed to be a fan-led show. And so if you do have questions, comments, anything that you want to throw in the chat, please do that. But it has been a while since we were on live last, again, because Jared was out frolicking the globe, out on vacation, just kind of doing his own thing. But here we are on a Thursday. Post Northwestern, looking ahead to Maryland. We'll kind of do a little bit of both. Jared, you and I had a completely different experience with this Northwestern game in terms of how we took it all in. We'll get to yours in a minute. I just want to say, being out in Chicago, again, I lived out there for a number of years. That's where my wife and I met and got married. Our first son was born there. My only son. I have a daughter, but my son was born out there. I think he's my only son out there. But it was awesome to be back in Chicago. There were a ton of Michigan fans that were out there. The weather was absolutely phenomenal. I think it was like 67 on game day. And so, mid-November in Chicago, like high 60s, it was an awesome time. Happy to be out there, and ran into a lot of people that follow the Facebook page, follow the shows. And, it's always good to be able to connect with people out there. And I got to be honest, Jared, I said this on the Facebook page, when I'm down on the field taking photos, it's hard to really get a full sense of the game and what's going on, which is why I wanted to go back and rewatch it. But, when I looked on social media after the game and some of the dialogue that was taking place, I was shocked at sort of how negative, I guess, the response was to what happened. I understand it with the turnovers, and we'll get into that. But Jared, from your point of view, I mean, you're out there in Puerto Rico, you're probably sipping on something fruity. You apparently had a great view. As you're taking in the game and you're watching it take place, what was your overall takeaway of what you saw on Saturday?
I mean, the offense moved the ball through the air, which is what I know you wanted it. So that was sexy, as you would say.
It was sexy. It was a weird blend of ugly and sexy, which, you could see that. Jared, you can relate to that, I'm sure. You know exactly what I'm talking. A guy like you knows exactly what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're insinuating there, but so no, I said I thought I don't appreciate that. I thought that I hope you choke on that tea. I thought that it was great.
Lavender and honey tea, by the way. This is the stage of my life that I'm in. Lavender and honey tea.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm embarrassed at this point. I don't even. No, I was watching the game on my phone at a pina colada stand on the side of the road in Puerto Rico. We randomly wandered off and saw iguanas, and it was a random just hippie dude that I think he just built a shack on the side of his house and was selling $7 pina coladas. And I don't know, it was great. Watching it with two good Michigan fans, friends that came with me. My daughter who goes to Michigan, who doesn't even realize that Michigan has a football team, so she was of no help. Yeah, super impressed with her. No, I mean, they moved the ball through the air. Bryce looked really good to start the game. They ran the ball. I mean, they looked balanced. It was just like all the turnovers that they didn't have all year happened that game. But in the end, I know you're big fans of the Devin Gardner and Jake Butt show. And like they said, a win's a win, and you gutted it out. And sometimes you don't bring your best game. Oddly, they played their best, to me, offensive game with their worst turnover game. I mean, to lose, it was 5 turnovers, right? 5 turnovers and win the game, dude. I mean, win in advance, right? Like, move on. 1-0 is what the guys were saying. Zavada missed 2 field goals. Like, what were we doing? Everything was going wrong, but they were moving the ball. If you look at, I wish we could put the stats up side by side. Excuse me, and you'd see, the difference.
Working up a pina colada out there. What the hell was that?
Out, man. That just came out. It's from Puerto Rico. Yeah, it's a little pina colada. But yeah, no, I'm sorry, man. I just, you look at the stats, you would think Michigan won 42-7. You know what I mean? Just the way the defense was dominant. And I mean, it was a strange game, but I don't know. What was your take? Yeah, it was beautiful, and props to you as a dad bringing your kids down for that experience, and your wife. I saw pictures on Facebook. The kids were happy, and you didn't have to deal with the freezing cold, which you were worried about. So
I was really worried about that.
Props, man. That was awesome of you to do that, bro.
Yeah, man, I was super worried about that. I wanted to get the family out there just to, be able to take in a game in Wrigley Field and watch Michigan play and be able to do that, I think was awesome. But yeah, I mean, anybody that went knows that it wasn't a cheap expenditure. And so my biggest fear was that my 11-year-old and 7-year-old would be up in the stands and they would be freezing their ass off and want to go home like after the first quarter. But no, it was absolutely beautiful. Being able to shoot down on the field was awesome. I will say that, Wrigley Field itself, the setting was cool, but that field was soaking wet. I'm talking like my pants were soaking wet. My shoes were covered in mud. Like, it was a cool setting, but you had to deal with some of the elements. I don't think that really played any sort of role into the turnovers. And we can talk a little bit more about that. But Jared, when I went back and watched the game, and even after we left the game, I'm pretty damn happy with what I saw. Now, obviously 5 turnovers aside, that's a big deal. But that was such like a out of character thing for this team. I think you said it during the lead in and what you were talking about. But like, Bryce Underwood, for the most part, has been pretty good with, protecting the ball. Michigan hasn't really turned the ball over at a high clip. And so super uncharacteristic to watch this team go out and commit 5 turnovers. But when you take that off the table and you look at the numbers and the way that the Wolverines performed, Jared, I got to be honest, I loved what I saw from this team. Going into this game, and you had mentioned it, I talked about what I wanted to see. I wanted to see more through the air, and damn it, they came out firing. Bryce Underwood was on fire to start the game. I think he was like 9 of 9 at one point in time. Hold on, let me pull up the actual numbers because I want to make sure.
9 of 10, at one point.
He was 9 of 9 for 108 yards at one point when I made notes, and then he was 10 of 11 for 140 yards. The first quarter was, really impressive. Came out firing, went to Andrew Marsh quite a few times. He connected with Donovan McCulley. And those are the things you wanted to see. Like, we know that Michigan can run the ball efficiently. We know that they're effective in the run game, but can they move the ball through the air? And Bryce looked really sharp in those RPOs. He was moving the ball efficiently. He was on target. That first quarter was exactly what I want to see from this Michigan team. And Jared, again, take the turnovers out of it. I thought that what we saw on Saturday against Northwestern, that is a formula to beat Ohio State. That was a team that was not one-dimensional. That was a team that had playmakers on the outside that could snag the ball, make things happen. And then, of course, you've got the consistency with Jordan Marshall, who can be a between-the-tackles kind of guy, ground and pound, but has also kind of developed that little bit of Justice Haynes where he's a bit of a home run threat waiting to happen. Yep. And shout out to the offensive line for making that stuff happen. They had some mistakes early, but I think the offensive line, as the season has gone on, has played incredibly well. And when you look at the numbers overall, Michigan, 496 yards of total offense, 280 through the air, 216 on the ground, 6.4 yards per play. They had 25 first downs. Jared, they were 9 of 14 on third down conversions. They held Northwestern to just 2 of 12 on third down. Let me see what else here. They own time of possession. I mean, top to bottom, take the turnovers out. This was a dominant performance from the Michigan Wolverines. And if you don't give 5 extra possessions to Northwestern and sacrifice 5 possessions, this doesn't come down to a field goal. This is a comfortable win for the Michigan Wolverines. So that's why when I walk away from this game, I'm not overly concerned with what I saw, because I think it's just a blip on the radar. You're not going to see Michigan go out and commit 5 turnovers in any other game this year.
Well, not only that, I think you just gave an incredible insight that I didn't even know. And like you said, it's not the reason for the turnovers, but when you're fumbling the ball, anybody who's played football, if it's wet, that ball, I mean, it's harder to hold on to the ball, period. Now, I think Stuart Jones mentioned it. The RPOs were great. Bryce is still learning. When he threw that pick, that should have been a run. He pulled it out and threw a terrible pass across the middle and ended up being a pick.
That was the second interception, right?
Yeah. And
even when I watched that back, there's no way he didn't see. I don't know if it was a linebacker that was out there. There's no way he didn't see the guy that he was trying to throw it past. I think it was. You're right. Probably should have handed it off there. Yep. But I think he was. He's trusting his arm and feeling like he could make a big play. But I don't.
You can trust your arm, but you didn't. The RPO is RPO for a reason. You read you read that linebacker, and that was an 8-yard rush, easy. The running back would be in the second level. So, but I'm not saying it's bad. I get it. You want your guy to take chances, right? I get it. I think it was was it a safety or a linebacker? But he broke on that ball. He read that the whole way. That's going to happen in football, but. The good news is he's getting better at the RPOs, right? I think the Michigan State game we talked about, they had like 17 RPOs and he ran everything. He handed off every time. He wasn't reading anything then. He was just handing it off safety. I think now he's getting more comfortable. You get another game with Maryland. I mean, I think, man, he was in the 80, 90 percentile range of making the right call on the RPO. It was a safety. Okay. Thanks, Stuart. Yep. So I thought it was a safety, but yeah, he just read that, you know what I mean? And that's going to happen. You're going to, a guy's open, the safety's going to see it. It's going to happen. But to have that success rate, he made the right call, 80, 90%, high 80s, 90% of the time. I agree with you. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to beat Ohio State, but that's what you need to have that. If you go into Ohio State and throw for 280 and run for 216, it's going to be an interesting ass game.
I feel like that's a W. I feel
the totally different defense.
I was going to say totally different. Not to knock Northwestern either, because they came in with a solid defense, particularly against the pass, which is why I think it's so impressive that Bryce Underwood and Andrew Marsh were able to do what they were able to do. We'll talk about Andrew Marsh in a second. But yeah, overall, I mean, and I guess that's why I'm a little bit surprised when I saw the reaction. Now, I get it. In the moment, if you're watching Michigan commit 5 total turnovers, 4 in the second half, 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter, I understand why you're feeling pretty emotional, and I still don't get the calling for a coaching change thing. I mean, this team is 8-2 on the season, but I understand why people were frustrated with what they saw. But, maybe going in and watching that game with the luxury of knowing Michigan is going to pull it out in the end, it took all the emotion away from me. And I just looked at what was happening, and what I saw, like I said, this was a formula that I think can beat Ohio State, where you do some things through the air, you give them something to think about, but you do lean on the running game. One of the things we talked about going into this is there was a big question, Jared, about how much do you want to lean on Jordan Marshall? Because now with Justice Haynes out, you don't want to really run him into the dirt. Jordan Marshall obviously had an incredible game. Let me make sure I have the stats right. He rushed for 142 yards, 2 touchdowns on 19 carries. He was averaging 7.5 yards per carry. Obviously had that big run. I think it was in the first. Was it the first half? First half or second half? I can't remember exactly when it happened. Phenomenal game. But what happened is what you wanted to see not happen, where Jordan Marshall, and I was standing in the end zone. It happened basically right in front of me. I had a good vantage point from my camera where he went down on his shoulder. I saw him sit up and sort of grab in this location here. And I thought, here we go. This is the one thing that can't happen. So I guess in terms of how they utilized Jordan Marshall on Saturday, 19 carries, 142 yards. Jared, did you think that was enough? Did you think that was a little bit too much? Do you think, that injury is just one of those things that unfortunately it's going to happen playing the game of football?
Yeah, I don't think that they wanted, I think if you're Sharon Moore, we probably wanted 10, 11 carries and you get ahead quick. And I think that's why they threw early, right? To get that pass game going, maybe get a lead, get ahead, not have to. And then I think that injury, he's going to be okay. Sharon came out and said he needed a massage and an ice pack, right? Those things happen. Anybody who's played football, you land on that shoulder. Everybody's got that shoulder injury. He didn't break the clavicle, which is important. I'm a doctor, so I can talk about that. But they had to use him, more than they wanted to, because Northwestern kind of stayed in the game. But Kuzdal looked okay and looked like a powerful runner. He kind of looked like he did in the spring game that you and I went to that we were talking about. He looked pretty impressive for
he is such an
third string guy.
He's such an underrated running back, and it's, I guess maybe that's one of the silver linings in this whole running back situation with some of the injuries that you've had with Michigan is you get a good look at this kid, product out of Grand Rapids, and man, he is a hard runner. It seems like he's always falling forward. There's a lot to like about what he does, and it just goes to show how deep Michigan is at the position. And then next year you're going to add Savion Hyder into that room, and you're going to have more experience up front. So there's a lot to like moving forward. But I think, Jared, you're right. Like ideally, you probably wouldn't have wanted Jordan Marshall to have to carry it 19 times, but I mean, dude, at 7.5 yards per carry and in a close game, a one possession game, it's clear that you had to lean on it a little bit because if you don't beat Northwestern, then the rest of it really doesn't matter. Like obviously you want to beat Ohio State, but Michigan is still fighting for a playoff spot. I don't think it was really, I don't know. I just saw so much criticism of Sharon Moore and Chip Lindsey and the offensive play calling. And I thought they called a great game. I mean, when you look at the reverse to Andrew Marsh, I get that it's not ideal. I get that you don't, but if Andrew Marsh takes that and the blocking is there and there's no fumble on the play and he picks up 10 yards, then it's another great play by the Michigan offense. And so it's easy to go back and say, why don't you keep running it with the running backs? The running game was working. But I think that is part of balance you want to see in the offense. And so I didn't mind the play call in that situation.
If you watch that play again too, and you make a very good point, and I think everybody in here, if you go back and just watch that play, the block got missed. I think it was a tight end came around, right? And if he gets that block, that is a whole, like you said, whole different play. Marsh he's getting 10 yards easy, and as fast as he is, who knows where he goes. So do you get mad at Sharon Moore and Chip Lindsey? Specifically Lindsey, you're mad at Lindsey for making the correct, that play's a great play call. The guy blew the block. He ran right past that edge that made the tackle and made the, forced the fumble. Like that's not on the coaching staff. Like you said, that was a great, actual good play call. It just, they didn't execute it properly.
And
these college kids are going to do. They're going to make mistakes.
Right. Youngest team in the Big Ten, a lot of young guys on the offense. And I think what you said there is pretty much in line with what we've seen from this team all year, where the biggest issue early on, it seemed like it was play calling. But the more that this season has gone on, it really feels like it's more of just an execution issue. Yep. And the 5 turnovers on Saturday, that was an execution thing. That wasn't a Sharon Moore thing. That wasn't a Chip Lindsey sort of thing. That was just guys making mistakes. Bryce Underwood, for as great as he is and for as high as the upside is, still an 18-year-old true freshman quarterback who's trying to work his way through a really close game. He's trying to make some things happen, and he made some mistakes. But I've said this before, you can live with the mistakes if the mistakes are being made in an effort to be explosive, in an effort to push the ball down the field. And that's why I wasn't even pissed off about what I saw. Now, obviously, you don't want to see back-to-back interceptions in the fourth quarter, but overall, I thought the philosophy, what we saw from this offense, that's the type of offense that I think for Michigan moving forward, once they get that experience and once they get comfortable in it, that's the type of offense that I think can win a lot of football games for the Wolverines.
And maybe you could expand upon this too, because obviously you were a lot closer than I was. I was all the way in Puerto Rico, if anybody didn't realize. But even after that second pick, it felt like through my little tiny phone that Underwood just didn't seem phased. He walked out confident, went right back into the huddle, made the play call. And I even turned to my buddies and I said, dude, this kid doesn't even realize that he just threw 2 picks. He's fully expecting to drive down and win this game. And I felt confident that he was going to do it, which to me is impressive. You throw 2 picks in a game like that, and you're going to lose to this team. The whole season was on the line. And it looked to me like he was just, man, whatever, next drive. You know what I mean? That they say that cornerback, right? You got to have a short memory. Same with a quarterback. When you throw that pick, you got to forget about it and move on. And it felt like he was just confident. I'm just going to go out here and we'll go down and win this game. And they did.
Yeah, the whole team played that way. I mean, they had a lot of young guys on the field defensively. Obviously, Bryce Underwood's true freshman. Andrew Marsh is a true freshman. You had Bryson Kuzdal out there at running back. Jasper Parker was out there on that final drive, that game-winning drive. And these guys didn't flinch. They made mistakes, but they didn't flinch. And I think That alone is what you want to see from a young football team that's trying to figure their way through this and try to find ways to win games. Was it ugly? Was it stressful? Did you hate seeing 5 turnovers? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, the fact that they found a way to overcome that, Jared, 4 of those turnovers happened in the second half and 3 came in the fourth quarter of a 1-possession game. Think about that. You don't win games. You just don't win games when you turn the ball over 3 times in the fourth quarter of a 1-possession game. Yet Michigan found a way to win it. Credit to the defense as well. The defense settled in, made stops when they need to make stops. And to your point, Bryce Underwood, I mean, as close as I was, he didn't look rattled. He didn't look like he was sort of thrown off. Obviously, he was unhappy with the interceptions, but when he got back out on the field, it didn't seem like a guy who the moment was too big for him. And so I think that was a game where this team grew up a lot. I think a lot of these young guys got some awesome reps. It was an awesome experience. And they found out that, hey, we can make some mistakes, but we're mentally tough enough to keep ourselves in it and ultimately find a way to win. Do you want to talk about Dominic Zavada first, or should we go to Andrew Marsh? Because I think that there's 2 different conversations that can be had there.
So I don't know if you're caught up on the comments, but somebody just said, is Zavada in his head? Ron Thomas at 621.
Here we go.
I think we can get right to Zavada because a lot of people want to know. And I got a couple buddies that were with me that, they watched Michigan, but they don't really fully dive into it like we do. And I mean, what do you have to say about him? I think that, man, it seems like anytime he's not head on, he's missing. It's in the 60-yarder, whatever. That's a 60-yard field goal. Like, you're just trying to get some points on the board. I don't even hold that against him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's NFL guys that are going to miss that kick, but when he's this year, it just seems like it's rough to him.
I think he's missed 5 so far this year. I think he's missed 5, and somebody can correct me.
Seem to be at some kind of angle.
Yeah, but well within his range. I mean, you're talking about a first team
34 yarders. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
so,
but I mean, he made the one that mattered.
Right, and that's the thing that I think is most important out of this. Obviously, watching Dominic Zavada struggle the way he has been puzzling because he was one of those guys where it felt like he was just Mr. Automatic. And again, I'm not going to put this on that, but field conditions were a little bit weird down there. Everything was soaking wet. And so I don't know if that played a role in what was going on. But yeah, the 60-yarder, I mean, that's kind of a hit or miss sort of thing for any field goal kicker around the country. And especially the direction he was kicking it. I remember on the playback hearing Joel Klatt say like, oh, the wind is at his back. But when I was standing down at the field, it felt like the wind was going against him. And so I think the wind was just sort of swirling around the stadium. Don't know if that played a role in it. But yeah, you don't want to see Dominic Zavada miss any gimmies because I think that if Michigan is going to win that final game in November, Dominic Zavada is probably going to have to play some type of role in making that happen. We saw that last year in the improbable win with Michigan down in Columbus. But absolutely critical. As the game was going on, I was standing down in the field next to another photographer, and I remember when the fourth quarter started and Michigan got the ball back, and it was like, okay, this is sort of a must-have, got to have this drive, got to put points up. And then Michigan turns the ball over, gives up points to Northwestern. And then it was like, okay, now this is a must-have, got to have this drive. And then Michigan turns the ball over again. And then it was like, holy shit, like, this really is a must-have, got to have it type drive. Yeah. And I somehow just knew that it was going to come down to Dominic Zavada the way this game was trending. I didn't think they were going to put the ball in the end zone. When you looked at the score, it just kind of had that feel that they were going to try to put him in a position. And I guess when it comes to like Sharon Moore, on one of the turnovers, I guess the only questionable thing I have is in the fourth quarter, there was 4 minutes and 30 seconds left. It was 4th and 1. Michigan's trailing by 1. You're on the 23-yard line. And instead of putting Zavada out there to put the team up, they decide to go for it. They fumble on the exchange. They turn the ball over. Jared, I don't know if you remember that play particularly, and I'm not sure if Sharon Moore addressed this afterwards, but I'm thinking, dude, 4th and 1, you're down a point. There's 4:30 left in a close game. You're on the 23-yard line, well within Zavada's range, and you choose not to kick it, and instead you go for it on 4th down. I was a little bit puzzled by that. Do you remember that play? And yes. Does that make sense to you in a world where it doesn't make sense to me?
No, because one of the guys I was with, huge Lions fan like me, we both said, oh, he's channeling his inner Dan Campbell, right? And didn't get it. And we're like, oh, awesome. That sucks.
Yeah.
But I thought they should have kicked that one too. That was odd to me. And the other part that made me worried was, are you signaling to Zavada that you don't trust him now? Because I was with you. I was like, man, they're not scoring touchdowns right now. I think this is going to come down to a kick. And you tell them that you don't try. So that's what they're on a 23-yard line. That's what 39, 38, 30. It was a 38-yarder. I think is what it was. And they did mention that the wind was swirling on because you were down on the field, you couldn't hear. I think Klatt did say again the wind is kind of doing weird stuff. And I mentioned it 2 weeks ago. I just want to give myself props. I mentioned hating when they play football on a damn baseball field because it's the field's always like that. It sucks. Yeah. It's never good, and people get hurt and stupid things happen, and here we are. But I would like to say, of those kicks that he had, which one do you think was the hardest? The 60-yarder, the first one he missed, or the game winner?
I think the game winner for sure.
And he still hit it. Like that's what I'm saying. You're all in your head. You know what I mean? You got 2 free throws to win a game for basketball. I was more of a basketball guy, and you missed the first one. That second one's hard now, and he hit it. Like he still had the confidence to hit it. His teammates had confidence in him. He missed the first 2. If we're being real about it, right? He had missed. Odds are that he was going to make that third one too. That I hope, but the hardest. That's the hardest kick of all of them. I mean, the 60-yarder was just trying to get points on the board. I think that I didn't even chalk that one up as a miss to him. That's 50-50 on a good day. Yeah, you know what I mean. But I don't know if it's a criticism. I'll say this. I think if it's the same situation against Ohio State, and you're down 1 and it's the fourth quarter with 4.5 minutes left and you're on the 23-yard line, you're kicking that field goal every single time. Bolt play didn't work out and ended up turning the ball over. Fortunately, the defense was able to get it back. But Dominic Zavada, hero of the game for sure. Jared, for the reason you just said. I mean, you miss your first 2 kicks. Things haven't been going your way this season. I mean, dude, there's some games where he hasn't attempted any field goals, like multiple games this year. You get into Wrigley, you miss your first 2, and then here you are out on the field, and you got to make this one for Michigan to stay in the playoff hunt. And he was right down the middle, and it was awesome because he made the field goal. We all ran out onto the field, and then his teammates run over, grabbed him, picked him up. I had it on Facebook Live. I was trying to record it. I wish I would have had my actual camera instead and actually gotten some photos of it. Some other photographers got some pretty incredible photos. But, they carry Zavada off the field over to where the families are sitting, and it felt like that was a turning point for him mentally to watch, even watch Jayshawn Barham. Like Zavada was walking on the field afterwards, and Jayshawn Barham came running up and was like all on Zavada, congratulating him. The way that the team rallied around him, it felt like whatever that mental thing is that kickers go through, where a guy like Zavada, who's automatic and who can make any kick out there, when you start to get into a rut, whatever was going on mentally, I feel like that kick set him straight, and there's that confidence is back. Teammates' confidence is in him. And again, if Michigan's going to beat Ohio State, I think you're going to need Dominic Zavada to be on point. And so it was awesome to watch the game come down to that, even though you would have preferred, I guess, a blowout performance. The fact that Michigan was tested, ton of turnovers, had to rely on Dominic Zavada, a guy who was struggling. Bryce Underwood and Andrew Marsh had to make big plays on that final drive, like young guys who are struggling. Things aren't going your way. And somehow or another, you put it all together there on the final drive in the fourth quarter to walk out of Chicago with a win. I thought it was awesome. Couldn't have been a better ending, and phenomenal for Zavada moving forward. Yeah, 100%. And you touched on something too a little bit. I think you kind of answered your own question about the 4th and 1 call. The defense was lights out. If you're Sharon Moore and it's a little bit iffy on the kick, you're not sure if he's going to miss it, you go for it because your defense, I mean, they were phenomenal. They got put in terrible positions repeatedly by the offense. And
2 of 10. Two of 12 on third down was
their job. Yeah. So if you're Sharon at that point, hey, I mean, it might be worth it. It was 4 minutes left. You got the 2 minute. They had their timeouts. Like, I mean, now that you kind of dissect it, it's not a terrible call with that defense. Now, if your defense was a little iffy, maybe you kick it, but I think he was ultimate confidence in that defense that Northwestern wasn't going to do anything, and he was proven right on it.
I think Sharon Moore's a great dude. I feel like he is. I feel like he is the guy. I feel like it's going to work with Sharon Moore leading the way. But I feel like that was a terrible call. You got to take the points.
Just get to it.
Take the points. You're turning the ball over. You're struggling. You're right there within field goal range to take.
Kicker's 0-2. Are you in field goal range?
That may be the case, but he's your guy. You got to rely on your guy. And if you're going to have to rely on him for like the game winner, then sure as hell you can rely on him with 4.5 minutes left, well within field goal range. And for as much as Zavada has struggled this year, let me just say one of the most important stats that he's got working for him, he's now 4 of 4 on game winners in his career. 4 of 4 on game winners, and 2 of those have come courtesy of the University of Michigan. So again, that clutch gene is still there, and glad that he was able to be the guy that did it, because I think that's important for his psyche moving forward, and certainly for Michigan's success. Let's talk about, dude, there's a lot of solid true freshmen on this team, but none really stand out more at this point than Andrew Marsh. Andrew Marsh is a guy that, as the weeks have gone on, we've started to talk about him a little bit differently, where early on in the season, he was playing a supplemental role. And then slowly but surely, week by week, this guy started to work his way in, getting more and more reps, to now we're heading into game 11 of the season. And look, not only is he having a solid year for a true freshman, this guy's like borderline superstar status for the Michigan Wolverines. When you talk about 12 receptions for 189 yards, 15.8 yards per catch, and not only that, but the reception he made in the fourth quarter on the sideline,
that was incredible.
That is an NFL catch every day of the week. By the way, NFL throw from Bryce Underwood as well, true freshman to true freshman. But Jared, with Andrew Marsh, we've been talking so much this season about how we want to see explosiveness in the passing game, how we want to see more things happening through the air. The emergence of number 4, which, by the way, Andrew Marsh might be changing his number. I hate that. I think he should stick with number 4. It looks so damn good on him. But the emergence of Andrew Marsh down the stretch is another reason why I have so much confidence that this team is capable of winning out and getting themselves into the playoffs. Thoughts on Andrew Marsh?
Unstoppable. I mean, it was incredible. It was just over and over and over. He's become the comfort blanket for Bryce, right? And it's a pretty solid comfort blanket to have. The kid just doesn't make drops. He thinks he can catch it. At points there was the cornerbacks were just walking around with their hands on their hips, like, what the hell is going on right now? You know what I mean? Like, he was unstoppable. And when you got a guy that's, I mean, he had 9 catches at the half, I believe. Like, obviously he's the target, right? And they knew, and they still couldn't do anything about it. That's when you know he's next level. When the defense started shading safeties over to him, and it didn't matter. I mean, that first in the first quarter, that pass that Underwood had over the corner in between the safety. I mean, these two are dialed in, which makes me nervous too. You get to the Ohio State game. I mean, Matt Patricia's no dummy. Right now, all he says is, we just got to take Andrew Marsh out, right? Like, and I hate to be picky and say who's wide receiver 2, but if I'm Ohio State, I say, hey, we just got to cover this kid. You know what I mean? And you got Caleb Downs. They got some studs over there. You know, Devin Sanchez. But for now, I'm going to forget about that team and just say, man, he's confident. I think Jake Buck said, or Devin Gardner said, looks like a first-round NFL draft pick in a couple of years. You know, he reminds me. I said it a few podcasts ago. He reminds me of Xavier Worthy at Texas when Xavier was a freshman. He just flashes a brilliant. And again, he's so confident that he doesn't even realize that he shouldn't be doing 12 catches, 180. You know what I mean? It's just like not a big deal to him.
Here's a good one. Yeah, I agree. Larry from the YouTube page says he's as good as Jeremiah Smith, but he just doesn't push off like Jeremiah Smith. Look, that might be a little strong. I hate Ohio State. I hate giving Ohio State credit for anything, but Jeremiah Smith is I don't think there's a better football player in the country than Jeremiah Smith. He's a guy that just looks like he was built in a lab. And, you know, he's one of those players that comes along every so often, but type of like generational type talent. Yeah. When it comes to Andrew Marsh, though, this is a guy, like, could he eventually become a future first round talent with what you're seeing from him as a true freshman? Absolutely. I think so. And it's nice to see that finally in this Michigan offense, you have a guy who can serve that role at wide receiver, because for so long, it feels like you've been searching for that and looking for a guy to step up and become that playmaker, a guy who can go snag the ball up out of the air, a guy who can get downfield and make catches that aren't necessarily dropped right in the bucket, but you can go make a play on the ball. Andrew Marsh has become that. And Jared, you said, well, you know, if Ohio State decides to shut him down, who do you go to from there? I get that the numbers weren't great. And I get that he's gone silent a little bit, but I do want to give some credit to Donovan McCulley, who looked great in the opportunities he had. He finished with 4 receptions for 59 yards, 14.8 yards per catch. At the beginning of the year, it seemed like he was going to be the guy. I mean, he was wearing the number 1 jersey. Everybody was reading into that. As a side note, can I say this?
Yes.
Is it fair to just say we have to stop reading too much into numbers that players are given? Like Shamari Earls is wearing the number 2 jersey. He's been on the field a little bit here and there. Hasn't really made a ton of big plays. Donovan McCulley given the number 1 jersey. He's had a good season, but I think that I don't know if it's still a thing where like you assign jerseys to like that dude. Am I crazy in that, or should we just sort of like not read into too much about what numbers people are wearing anymore?
No, it's a tradition thing at Michigan, man. 21, 2, 1. Like these numbers matter, and I think that what I'm getting the vibe is they're not honoring it enough. Like McCulley good. He's only gonna play 1 year, but he didn't earn it at Michigan. That's my thing. Shamari Earls, you're a freshman, bro. You didn't earn that. Like that's got to go. That's a thing you get your junior or senior year. You've been there a few years. You've earned it. All right, you're the corner. You can wear 2 this year, right? Like, you've earned that spot. Like, and I know Charles Woodson talked to Shamari Earls and gave him the number, but I just don't see I don't like a freshman wearing number 2. I mean, Will Johnson did it a little bit different. Yeah, I don't know. I don't dislike McCulley either, and I don't have it. I just think they're not putting him in the right positions. I 2 more times in that game, they did these passes down the sideline where he's defended by the sideline. It's either a perfect pass from Bryce or he doesn't, or it's nothing. And I feel like at 6'5", right? 6'5",
yeah,
6'5" across the middle. I mean, I'm not saying linebacker middle. A deep post jump ball where he's got some room to maneuver, make some adjustments. That's the great catches we've seen him make. He's had room to make an adjustment on the ball. And it seems like they keep running him down the sideline where there is no adjustment. It's out of bounds or inbounds. You can't.
He made a great catch over the middle. I don't know how many yards he picked up on it, but it was probably like 30 yards or so. Like he had a great reception over the middle, and he's quick once he gets the ball. He's got that long stride. I think you're right. A lot of what they do with Donovan McCulley seems to be the down the sideline thing, toss it up and let him go for it. I mean, dude, he almost got killed in the first half on a ball that Bryce threw deep. McCulley went up, he reached his arm up, and I've got a great photo of it where like somebody came in and took his legs out, and he's just sort of like, it looks like he's laying down, except he's like 5 feet in the air flat on his back. It doesn't seem like they're having too much success with the stuff down the sideline with McCulley, but I do think he is a serviceable option. Another thing, think about this. Another thing we don't really see from this offense, like when you get in the red zone, you're 20 yards out, you're 15 yards out, like a 2-step drop and just toss the ball up in the corner of the end zone, let your 6'5" wide receiver go and get it. And here's what I will say. And I'm not trying to be negative here, but it didn't happen against Michigan State. It didn't happen against Purdue, and now it hasn't happened in Northwestern. So for over a month now, Bryce Underwood has not thrown a touchdown pass. That's the only thing that we did not see on Saturday. That's 3 consecutive games now where Bryce Underwood has not thrown a touchdown pass. I'm a little bit concerned about that. I would have loved to see them put the ball in the end zone, but when you've got Jordan Marshall and you've got Bryson Kudsdahl and you've got, I don't know, maybe we're going to see Max Bredesen carrying the ball based on some things we've heard this week. When you've got guys in the backfield who you can punish and put the ball in the end zone, I guess you don't necessarily need it. But yeah, that thing with McCulley and just throwing the ball in the end zone, I'm a little bit, Jared, am I alone in that? Or are you a little bit shocked that we haven't seen Bryce Underwood throw a touchdown pass now in 3 consecutive games?
I'm not shocked because I think he's ran for a couple, hasn't he? So there's that too. He's pulled it down. He's pulled it down and ran for his own. So I'm not. To me, a touchdown's a touchdown. I don't really care who gets it or does it. And like you said, you got a super strong run game. I mean, that's what you're gonna do. I do like what you said. I would like to see some more jump balls with McCulley. Something maybe not in the corner, somewhere where he can make. I'm telling you, if you let that kid adjust, he makes an adjustment on the ball, and he's gonna. It's like boxing out, right?
It's basketball.
Bigger, taller. Yeah, he's going to box out in the right position. He's going to go up and get it. And I think he's got the skill set. I do want to go off on a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but the whole time I was watching Marsh too, I kept thinking, because I'm like a big on recruiting guy. And I'm thinking, man, if Strone Moore doesn't just splice this thing together and show every recruit That's a wide receiver. This is what we're going to do at Michigan moving forward. Here, like you nailed it. Here's our quarterback that can throw NFL passes, and here's you. You want to be Andrew Marsh on the other side of the hell? Who doesn't?
Right.
Bryce put those balls in some fantastic positions, minus the 2 picks. But I mean, man, that was a call. That was a great calling card for receivers, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
they're going to throw the ball.
Right. You've got a young receiver coming to campus trying to figure out how they fit into the Michigan offense. Throw that tape on from Wrigley and show them number 4 and that connection from 19 to number 4. And I just think that that's what you need. And I get that it's bigger than just recruiting, right? Because ultimately you're trying to win the football game. But that is a big part of it. Like if you are going to commit to Michigan and you're a 5-star wide receiver out there and you're a young guy who wants to be on the field and wants to make an impact and you're thinking like, can I do that in Ann Arbor? Andrew Marsh proved that connection between Underwood and Marsh proved that. And that's why I think those things are so important. And you can't tell me that at this point, after that game and walking out of Chicago with a win like that, that even with the interceptions, Bryce Underwood's confidence isn't a little bit higher, if for no other reason than he knows he's got number 4 out there. And you have to know that Andrew Marsh is feeling supremely confident right now that when he steps on the field, he's the biggest playmaker that they've got. And regardless of whether or not that's true, and I think it is, that Andrew Marsh is thinking that, and that's critical for a wide receiver that you're going to ask to make big plays down the stretch in a big game on November 29th. And so, yeah, man, I think it was great. It was exactly what I wanted to see from the passing game. And I agree with you. I don't think overall it's a big deal. Like touchdowns are touchdowns, whether you get them through the air or on the ground. To me, it's more of like a mental thing. Like, okay, it's been a long time since I've thrown a touchdown pass now. Like, can I get one in the end zone through the air? I would just like to see that happen. But overall, like we talked about before, I didn't need 500 yards through the air from this offense. I didn't need it to be 40 or 50 pass attempts. What we saw on Saturday against Northwestern was exactly what I wanted to see from this Michigan offense. We got it, and now you move on and you get ready for a Maryland team, which quite frankly, started out the season, they won 4 consecutive games. Maryland has now lost 6 consecutive. I don't know how many people out there are paying attention to Maryland. Maryland looked like they were going to be a problem in the Big Ten, and they fell off a cliff. They are losing to everybody. This is a very winnable game for the Michigan Wolverines, and it's another game where they can go out and work off of the same blueprint that they worked off of in Wrigley. You eliminate those turnovers, and the score at the end of this thing looks way different.
Yeah, nope, I agree 100%. And yeah, Maryland I was worried about them earlier. You made fun of me a lot. It was bullying. I had to go to therapy.
You were terrified of the Terrapins.
Okay, here we go again. Now it's coming all back to me, and I have to go back to therapy. I wasn't terrified of the Terrapins, which is a great slogan, but no, they really fell off, man. I don't even know what to say about them at this point. Not as concerned as I was before. Still slightly concerned. Running quarterback always makes me nervous. I just hate that. They seem to get us. But he's also a freshman. This defense is much different than what I was seeing earlier in the year. Remember, they were like the first drive was a touchdown every time. That's what we started this season on the pod. Now it's like they come out locked in. They come out ready to go. And I think that the offense is confident. They're throwing, they're running, they just look like a pretty good team right now. And yeah, I'm not super concerned about Maryland. I hope, like you said, they go out there and do the things that they want to practice and they want to do. And I hate to say you practice against a Big Ten team, but that's what I want to see. A continuation of, man, that they do that game again against Maryland without the turnovers. It's a blowout. And then you got Ohio State. I'm with you now. I wanted to give Ohio State something to think about. And these 2 games, you could give Ohio State something to think about. Last week, Ohio State's like, we stopped the run. This shit's over. Right. You know what I mean? Like
now you're thinking a little bit about Andrew Marsh. You're thinking a little bit about Bryce Underwood being able to use his legs, which he did against Northwestern really well. Here's what we're going to do. I want to run a quick commercial for VFW National Home. And then what we're going to do is announce the winner of the Colston Loveland jersey giveaway. We weren't able to do that last week because somebody was sunning their buns out there in Puerto Rico. It's the tan guy on your screen. When we come back, we'll announce the winner of the Colston Loveland autographed jersey. And then we'll talk maybe a little bit Maryland. We'll talk maybe a little bit about the cheaters in East Lansing. By the way, let me just throw this up here real quick before we do the commercial. This Dan Beckett guy, I've seen him pop up on the Facebook page. I think he's a massive Ohio State fan. He says, it's funny hearing people from Michigan calling someone else a cheater, kind of like the pot calling the kettle black. Like, I don't know if that's a reference to like Ohio State people being hypocrites, but as far as I know, Dan, out of the three teams that we're talking about here, Ohio State, Michigan State, and Michigan, only two of those teams have had to vacate wins for cheating, and it's not the Michigan Wolverines. And so do with that whatever you will. Jared, let's run this commercial. We'll get back and we'll talk about some of that other stuff here. At the VFW National Home, the mission is to provide unwavering support to military and veteran families facing life's challenges. Because while the military makes great service members, it doesn't always prepare them for life after service. That's where VFW National Home comes in. Since 1925, the VFW National Home has offered families a safe, stable place to rebuild, keeping the family circle intact even when their service member doesn't come home. Today, VFW National Home continues that tradition with programs designed for the unique needs of veteran and military families, such as case management to help set goals for the future, educational, recreational, and enrichment opportunities, along with community resources and counseling, and even free housing and daycare. Through these services, they empower families to heal, grow, and create lasting opportunities for success, all in a positive, safe, and healthy environment. You can learn more about how VFW National Home is helping families reach their full potential at vfwnationalhome.org. That's vfwnationalhome.org. All right. Yes. Shout out to VFW National Home for doing incredible work. And we did a jersey giveaway to try to raise money for VFW National Home. A lot of people participated in that, and we are grateful for all of the donations that came in. And hey, if you made a donation to VFW National Home, we put your name into a drawing for an autographed Colston Loveland jersey. Jared, I'll just go ahead and make the announcement right now. The winner of that Colston Loveland autographed jersey is Diane Popick. And so if you're listening to the show here, Diane Popick, please reach out to us. Make sure we can get connected so that we can give you or get the jersey to you. Jared will mail it out. Yep. If we don't hear from Diane, we'll give it about a week or so. And if we don't hear from her, we'll draw another name out of the hat and we'll see if anybody else can be the fortunate winner there. But Diane Popick, you are the winner of the Colston Loveland autograph jersey. Appreciate your support for VFW National Home. Jared, we haven't done a show since Michigan. Dude, the people out in East Lansing, the dirty, rotten cheaters vacating 14 games they had to vacate.
Yeah.
You really hate to see it because cheating doesn't belong in the sport. It puts player safety at risk. There's just, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth when you know you're competing against a team that doesn't play honest football. Any thoughts on, Matt Kirby for sure. I mean, the Hammer certainly can. Let me just say this before I throw it over to you, Jared. There are a lot of grifters out there on social media, a lot of grifters, a lot of people who have built their entire social media platform on promising their dumb followers that a Hammer was coming for the University of Michigan. I'm not going to call those people out by name. If you're on social media, you know exactly who I'm talking about. And I just find it ironic, Jared. That the loudest voices telling you that a Hammer was coming for Michigan happened to be on the receiving end of that hammer. One guy ended up in jail. Not going to say why. It was a shitty situation, but one guy is paying a price for some things he's done. Another guy that spent a lot of time saying that, hey, the Hammer's coming for Michigan. Well, his favorite team just got hammered and had to vacate 14 wins. If you had to script this thing out, it couldn't have turned out any better for the Michigan Wolverines. There's only one team in the equation that hasn't had to vacate anything. That's Michigan, the University of Michigan. So moving forward, I don't want to hear shit from these people. I am tired of the sign stealing stuff. They dragged it out. They built their fan base based on this idea that something was coming for Michigan. It never came. Big shocker there. But I don't want to hear shit from Michigan State fans anymore. I don't want to hear shit from Ohio State fans, because if your team has had to vacate wins for cheating, I don't want to hear from you. Michigan can't relate to you. We're not in that same boat. Jared, any sort of, well, here's a good point. Yeah, they had to vacate that. They vacated 49-0. No, the loss still stands.
We won that. Yeah, their losses. They're like 2 wins in that time frame now.
You only vacate the wins. You don't vacate the season. So that 49-0 ass whooping to the Michigan State Spartans from courtesy of the Wolverines, that very much still stands. But Jared, I sent you a text message when it came out. I was laughing about it at that point. You hadn't heard. I mean, are you shocked that Michigan State had to vacate 14 wins? Are you disgusted that another team in the Big Ten had to vacate wins for cheating?
No. I did exactly what I'm doing right now. I laughed because unlike probably a lot of people in this podcast, and maybe even you, I had some dealings with their former head coach. And man, talk about getting a vibe from somebody. I got the vibe that this dude was just not good. And I'm a fan of little brother being good. Like, I like the rivalry. To me, I mean, it's not even fun. I went to the Michigan State game as a fan. We left well before halftime. I mean, even though it was still a close game, watching, it wasn't a close game. You knew what was going to happen, right? The Michigan State fans weren't even really talking trash that much. They were getting drunk and angry because they knew it was about to happen. But no, I feel bad for the kids that are in the program now. It's a shitty situation, and it's not their fault what happened. So hopefully their wide receiver, I'm not going to mention his name, looks to the transfer portal, maybe watch that last game, sees Bryce Underwood, sees Andrew Marsh. What if he was there? His last name's also Marsh. It's all coming together.
Marsh and Marsh? Wow.
Marsh and Underwood, man. It's like a law firm, dude. What are we doing?
Marsh and Marshall?
Yeah, come on. Hey, Marshall, and Underwood.
You got Zach Marshall at tight end. I mean, there's a lot going on there if you make that.
2 names on the team. Yeah. No, I wasn't surprised that dude was greasy. That dude was dirty. I mean, remember pulling up Lamborghinis in midfield, like smoking cigars everywhere. He just exuded grossness, and unfortunately he put it on that program, and the kids now are going to pay for it, and they're going to be hurting for a while with some of those recruiting violations. And
yeah, Michigan State is
trouble, dude.
They're in a bad spot. And I'll be honest, I will be perfectly honest with the whole Mel Tucker thing. When he first arrived in East Lansing, I thought, oh shit, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a bit of a problem. He was pulling out like Lamborghinis and Range Rovers out on the field. They were bringing in pit bulls and taking pictures. Like, I just thought, like, they're about to start like recruiting on a whole nother level there in East Lansing. And I mean, that fell off real quick. And the reality of what was going on behind the scenes, I think is why Michigan State's now had to vacate 14 wins. You go from that right into Jonathan Smith, who's a guy that just looks like he's just there.
Getting a paycheck. Yeah.
I'm just here until somebody tells me I can't come back anymore. And everybody there in East Lansing, that entire fan base, they want him, they want him strapped to a rocket and shot off to the moon. They want him out as soon as possible. They're so desperate out there in East Lansing that they were hoping that the Spartans would make a run at James Franklin. James Franklin, by the way, is a guy who can't win a big game for his life, like a Big Ten game. Like, this guy struggles, but that's how bad things are in East Lansing that they were maybe hoping that Michigan State would go after James Franklin. Look, I know that we're joking, and I know that we're kind of trying to push buttons here, but at the end of the day, I just find it ironic and hilarious how this all turned out. We were told for months, and these people that are posing as insiders, and they have information, and these things are coming, and Michigan's going to be this, and Michigan's going to be that. And at the end of the day, none of that shit happened. None of this shit happened. But some folks attached to Ohio State, some things happened for sure. And certainly some things happened with Michigan State. And so it just goes to show that, surprisingly, Jared, you can't believe everything you read on the internet, particularly social media, with people who are trying to tell you that they know shit.
I believe Abraham Lincoln said that. Don't believe everything you see on the internet.
Good old Abe. Great quote. All right, let's see if we can go through some things here because it is a fan-led Wednesday. Is there anything that I've forgotten about? We're at 53 minutes here. Is there anything I missed? Anything I forgot about?
Let's see what the fans have to say about it. They're talking about Diddy parties, so I don't know what's going on in the comments. Just somebody let CJ in here again, and
these things just happen. This is a total side note. While I'm looking for questions, comments through here. This morning we ran out of coffee here, so I went to a Tim Hortons drive-through. I got a large black coffee. I only drink my coffee black, but it was fully caffeinated. I thought, you know what? I'll drink this large thing, dude. I haven't had like caffeinated coffee in years. I was wired this morning. I felt like electricity was running through my body, like I had to jump out of my skin. I don't know how people do that. The high amount of caffeine. Are you a caffeine guy? Are you a non-caffeine guy?
I drink 1 coffee a day, and it's in the morning, and that's it. But yeah, I watch guys throw espressos, and being in the military, it's a little bit. When I was in the field and training, doing all different types of things, yeah, coffee was the jam. Like when we were out in the field, real tired, and I mean, we would put coffee pouches in our lip just to get the caffeine in. It's wild. This is a different world, dude.
That's insanity. Back in the day, I did used to have energy drinks. I don't know how. Now I feel like
one in my life. I hate energy drinks.
And that's how you end up with lavender honey tea on a podcast on a Thursday evening.
There's a good one. Yeah, there you go.
Well, here we go.
That's the one I was looking for.
This is something that we didn't bring up because I don't know how much interest there is in it, other than the fact that we've heard some talk now that maybe Michigan would consider leaving the Big Ten Conference. I don't think that would occur until 2036 or so. So it's still a ways off. The contract with the Big Ten is still in place. But David No from the Facebook page says, how about Michigan maybe leaving the Big Ten Conference? I'm so glad they're sticking up and not caring one bit. Not caring one bit to leaving it makes sense to the school. Jared, this whole private equity thing with the University of Michigan, the Big Ten, USC is obviously the other holdout. I think some other regents at other schools have expressed some concerns, but my understanding is that it's just Michigan and USC that are not interested in this deal. But as it pertains to the University of Michigan and this private equity deal, the $2.4 billion that they're planning to infuse into the conference for a 10% stake in the media rights moving forward, and then extending the contract with the conference for 20 years?
2046.
Yeah. Is this something that, it makes sense to you, right? Why Michigan would say, hell no, we don't want this deal. We don't need this deal. When you first heard about this, what was your overall thought? And then what are your thoughts about Michigan potentially leaving the Big Ten Conference altogether?
Couple things, right? So to me, it's like, man, it's like a shark, a scam, right? You mentioned the numbers, 2.4 billion, 10%, and each school gets 100 million. That was the whole, but they get 10% to 2046. That is for that firm, 2.4, incredible return on investment. It's a no-brainer. But the beauty of it is, I think that USC and Michigan, their brands, they realize, and I'm shocked that Ohio State went along with it. Just doesn't make sense. But they looked at that and said, so you want to give me 100 million, and then till 2046 you get 10%. You can just literally backwards look at the numbers and figure out how much they're going to make. That's like me telling you, it's like mafia stuff. I'm going to give you $20, Chris. In a week, you're going to give me 40. But you don't even need the $20 right now. That's what Michigan and USC are saying. We don't need your 100 million. So why the hell would we take it? And then you're going to make 300. Why would we do that? And which is, again, why I don't understand. But we did hear earlier in the year that Ohio State was a little broke, had some financial issues. Remember that? We were all kind of laughing. We were like, there's no way. But now they're agreeing to this, this Godfather proposal. It's ridiculous. And so that's my first take on it is, it's just a ripoff. You can literally look down the line and see how much money they're going to take from you. It's stupid. It's not, you're not guessing. And it's going to get even higher because sports just keeps getting big. Look at these contracts, right? Other thing, as a Michigan fan and as a USC fan, you got to be proud of your organizations and your brand, right? To be able to come out and say, no, we'll just leave. And the whole thing goes to shit because you two said you're going to leave. It's Michigan's got power, man. And if they have to leave, they have to leave.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. This whole thing's almost over with, right? To me, these conferences and shit, it's all kind of going. You and I have talked about it. I don't care if Michigan stays or goes at this point, but I'm not cool with them getting ripped off, because it's profit sharing for the athletes and stuff now for the school. It doesn't make sense.
Well, for starters, the whole thing is just so damn stupid. And it's exactly why I think, and is it going to impact what you're seeing on Saturdays, on fall Saturdays? No, not really. It will to a certain extent if this money starts flowing around these different programs and how they decide to use it. But at the end of the day, it just feels greasy. It doesn't feel like what college football was. I've heard this point brought up a lot that when you infuse all this money into college football, you're basically making it like the NFL, but nothing's ever going to compete with the NFL. And one of the things that made college football so special, and I hate to say it because I'm not trying to take money out of anybody's pocket, but dude, there was something to be said about the struggle of a college athlete going to school, working your ass off and trying to make it to the league, trying to make that payday. Now, a lot of these college athletes, if you're out here listening to this, most of them make more than you do. So you really don't have that emotional attachment to these guys. And now you sit back and you look at it and you're like, okay, this guy routinely fumbles the ball. He can't make any catches. He can't do this. He can't do that. And he's making 6 figures to do that. Wait a minute. Now all of a sudden we got to get somebody else in that space where before you might have some more sympathy and approach it in a different way. but it does feel greasy. It is like a payday loan. And Michigan, the reason that they're opposed to it is because they're not running a deficit. They're not one of the programs in the Big Ten that needs this infusion of cash. The folks down in East Lansing, I believe, are running a deficit. They do need. So if I understand correctly, it'd be about 190 million. Like it's tiered. So Michigan's at the upper tier. They're one of the programs that would get about $190 million. I think Michigan State would get about $110,000 with the way that it works. But if you're Michigan State and you're looking at the potential of like, hey, I can get $110,000 or I'm sorry, $110 million into the program. Right. Like
they get 110,000. We get
$190,000 right now to get our program out of the gutter. But for these programs, if you need money, I think that it's very appealing because the idea of extending whatever contract you're going to have for another 10 years, like if you're Jonathan Smith, you don't give a shit. And if you're a lot of the people that are sitting on these boards or in these positions of power, with the way that things change, you don't even know that you're going to be there by the time this all goes to shit. So you're probably all in on making a short-term deal to try to make things good now because who cares what's going to happen down the road? I probably won't even be here. But that's another big part of why Michigan is saying no. Not only do they not need the money right now, and I think they certainly can exist independently outside of the Big Ten, although I think the preference for sure is to stay within the Big Ten conference. Yeah. Michigan can exist without it. But the other part of this is like, why would you sign on to a contract like that and give up 10% of your media rights when the landscape of college football, just look at the way that things have changed over the last 5 years in the sport. Like there is so much change. The landscape is constantly evolving. Why would you want to lock yourself into a deal that would extend out until like 2046? It just doesn't make any sense. And so I think that you're right. It's unfortunate that Michigan and USC are really the only two schools that are pushing back strongly against this. But hey, man, if you're Rutgers, if you're Maryland, if you're Michigan State, and you want money to come into the program, this seems like a really good idea. And so it's just going to be, this is one of those things that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And again, if Michigan does decide, like, you know, if the Big Ten decides to go through this deal, and it doesn't sound like they're going to go through the deal unless all 18 schools are on board. But if the Big Ten does push through this and you know, Michigan has a decision to make in 2030, whatever it's going to be, I don't know. I could certainly see a scenario where Michigan can exist on its own. And I think that, you know, if you're the University of Michigan, like that might not be the worst proposition in the world. You want to keep that rivalry with Ohio State, but I don't know. I feel like the Big Ten needs Michigan more than Michigan needs the Big Ten Conference.
About 8 fans said the same thing, and I agree with them. And from a business perspective, from a marketing perspective, you look at University of Michigan, they are sitting on an absolute untapped gold mine in the Big House. There's not advertising at all in the Big House. There's not.
And I love that. I love that, right, by the way. I know
that's going to change. Right. If they had to, right? If they went independent and they had to, what do you think the naming rights for the Big House would be? Granted, it'd still be the Big House, Michigan Stadium with dude, that's NFL level payments. I mean, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars annually right there. So Michigan doesn't need this. USC doesn't need this. Ohio State, I don't know what the hell they're doing down there. Apparently they do. Oregon surprised me too with all that Nike money that they were willing to sign into this. I don't understand Oregon either, unless something's going on there. You know, maybe Phil Knight is like 86 years old. He's the guy, CEO, dumping all that money. And maybe when he's gone, that Nike board is going to say, to hell with this. We're not giving you $100 million a year anymore. And maybe they're looking at that. But no, I was proud that Michigan looked at it, you know, analytically, business wise, and said, no way. You nailed it. Payday loan. I mean, that's what this is. They're preying on these poor little schools like East Lansing, you know, Michigan State, poor little East Lansing, man.
The little brothers
of you said 110 grand, and everybody on the side was like, "Yeah, we agree, that's worth it."
Do you think it was 110 grand? I bet you Michigan State
didn't argue with you. They thought that was actually the number.
We'll take it. We'll take the 110,000. We need it. By the way, UC Investments, I believe, is the private equity firm that's trying to, you know, do this $2.4 billion deal. I think it's so greasy that any school would try to sell out 10% of its media rights, whatever, moving forward. But I will say, UC Investments, if you're out there listening to this podcast, I will give up 10% of the Winged Helmet Media, our podcast here, for a nice little infusion of, I don't know, man, $500,000. You know, I'll cut you a deal. We can make something work. If you got all this money that you're looking to give away, don't hesitate to reach out. I can put my email up after the show. But yeah, man, it's greasy. It just doesn't feel good. I know that this is where we are today in college athletics, but I hate it, man. I hate the idea of like this one works. The thing, did you see what they did with the Iowa Hawkeyes on the field? It says like John Deere Field or something like that. Like that one doesn't look quite out of place, but if there's ever a day where you go into Michigan Stadium and you walk into the big house and you get your first look at the stadium and you look down on the field and you see Little Caesars Field next to the Block M, like sort of thing. Like, I just don't want it to go there.
That day is going to happen, my friend.
It is coming. I understand. It's coming. I know it's coming. And I think that I just hate it. And I'm fine with hating it. I'm glad that the players are getting paid. I'm glad that when you pull into Schembechler Hall, it looks like a BMW dealership or a Tesla dealership, or all the coaches are driving brand new Chevrolet trucks. Like, it's got to be great to be them. It's awesome. I'm just saying that from a fan standpoint, and I've said this a number of times, I feel like a lot of the things that made college football, why you got so much investment from the fans, I feel like a lot of those things are starting to go away to where it feels like basically minor league for the NFL. And if you're watching minor league for the NFL or the NFL, you're probably choosing the NFL every day of the week. And so it just feels like you're losing some of that magical, whatever it was that made college football special. I know I sound like an old head talking about that.
No,
that's how I feel, damn it.
You're right. And I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I think unfortunately the people that did it are corporations, right? Because you think in the 80s, I mean, you've been a college football fan that long, right? So have I. Back in the 80s, you didn't really see it. The 90s, it really started to creep in.
Hold on. Don't age me too much here. I'm only 41. I was born in 84, so I don't know that I was really
college football when you were 7, 8 years old.
I mean, here and there, I was what? I would have been 6 in 1990.
This is embarrassing. I thought
I didn't really get into it until I was like 12, 13 years old.
Okay, so early 90s. Do you remember? It still wasn't that bad, right?
Sure. No.
I think when it got bad was honestly like EA Sports. You got these kids sitting in their dorm room playing a video game, and they're on the video game, and then they start thinking, wait a minute. These guys they're making billions of dollars. Charles O'Bannon, UCLA, right? Tried to get it changed back then, but that's what I think happened. Is
Charles O'Bannon?
Is Ed or Charles? They both played on the same team, but
okay. Why? I was thinking it was Ed for some reason.
The UCLA brothers, probably Ed, the older one.
It's his fault, damn it! It's his fault. He's the
right though.
These
corporations were making. It's when the corporations started making billions, it started getting really bad, and unfortunately now the corporations got to pay to play. So it's.
But you knew it was going to be this way. You knew it was going to be this way. When you open up NIL and you let money come into the sport and you have absolutely no guardrails. And I know they're trying to do this thing now with the clearinghouse where every NIL deal has to go through like this approval process. It doesn't matter. Like when you opened it up and it was just, hey, whatever goes, like, what did you think was going to happen? Of course, this was going to lead to a situation where you had investors willing to make a $12 million investment into a quarterback. It's great for Bryce Underwood. I'm not hating on that. It's just the concept of it to me feels gross. You've got Arizona State's quarterback right now. His camp is coming out saying that they're actively shopping him, I guess, and that he's probably not going to be back with Arizona State at the end. Like there are no contracts, there are no obligations, and if you're a head coach trying to navigate these waters and think, who the hell am I going to have on my roster next year? What conversations are being had? Am I even going to have these guys who I've been putting this time into that are like true freshmen are getting reps on the field? How do I protect that against some school coming in and saying, he looked pretty damn good on Saturdays, let's offer him $5 million, get him out of Ann Arbor and get him down to whatever school? Like, I just think it just all feels really gross. I don't like it. At the end of the day, is it changing the product on fall Saturdays? I'll say this. It does feel like, as a fan, there's less emotional attachment to the players. And a perfect example of this is look at the Michigan basketball roster. A lot of these guys, the casual fan has no clue who they are. No clue where they came from, no clue how they got there. You just had a couple 7-footers show up and a couple of new guards, and it looks like a new team, and they're supposed to be good and whatever. And it's cool if Michigan wins. But those days of like the story, the emotional connection, the guy who came into the program, worked his ass off, stayed, the Max Bredesons, the Blake Corums, like that type of thing. It just feels like there's no emotional connection to the team, where it's just far more transactional at this point. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I know it's a good thing for the guys that are trying to capitalize and make money off of it. I don't know if it's a good thing for overall fan support of the sport. And when you link that up with the players are making more money, the tickets are infinitely more expensive, travel is more expensive. If you want to watch the games on Saturdays now, you got to have like 6 different streaming services. The fan seems to be the one on the shitty end of the stick every single time. And at some point, I just think you're going to tune out. You're going to stop going. You're going to tune out. And when that happens, maybe we'll see something change that favors the fan base a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go on a rant about it. I hate it. I hate it.
Tell you that was an epic rant, my friend. I think there's some kids on your grass that you need to go yell at. God, 41 my ass.
Find out there.
Yeah,
it's 7:00 for God's sake.
Street lights are on. Good Lord, you just ate.
Well, I want to enjoy my lavender honey tea here in peace. That's all I want.
Everything you're doing is screaming 60s. You're 60 in your 60s.
I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm not going to apologize for it. I get it. It won't change. It is what it is. I'm not going to apologize.
I hope your knees hurt.
YouTube page here. Ricky from the YouTube page. He says, here's a question for you, Chris. Apparently he doesn't care about what you have to say, Jared. This is specifically for me. He says, you mentioned last year that there was a blueprint for Michigan to beat Ohio State, and it all started with Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. What is the blueprint this year? I think I mentioned that earlier in the show. I think the blueprint is what we saw last Saturday, and that might be shocking to people that were like beside themselves by what they saw in Michigan eking out a close win against Northwestern. But I think the blueprint is what we saw last Saturday, and that's balance with the offense. I trust the Michigan defense from game to game. I know against USC, there was a bit of a struggle, and it's clear that this defense isn't the type of defense we got accustomed to during the national championship run. But at the end of the day, it's solid enough to keep you in every single game you play. And I think if you can get great balance out of the offense, that's going to give you the best opportunity to win. And what we saw on Saturday with the connection from Bryce Underwood to Andrew Marsh, 200 and 60 yards through the air, 280 yards through the air, 200 and some yards on the ground. Jordan Marshall finishing with 140 plus rushing yards, ripping off big plays, guys making plays through the air. Bryce Underwood making plays with his arm and his legs. That's the blueprint. I think that's how you beat Ohio State. And if Michigan can get this game into a fist fight, we talked about it earlier in the show. If this is a game where it's a one possession game in the fourth quarter, you've got to love Michigan's chances. I think that Ohio State is coming into this game November 29th with the mindset that they're going to dominate Michigan, right? Mm-hmm. It's the last 4 games have been a shit show, at least if you're a Buckeye fan. The embarrassment that happened down in Columbus last year, the planting of the flag. I think they're coming in off of a national championship looking to make a statement on November 29th. And if this game is close, it's a one possession game in the fourth quarter and the Wolverines are hanging around and Ryan Day's thinking, holy shit, this could be 5 straight. And those guys start getting that question mark in their head because nobody on this roster knows what it's like to beat the Michigan Wolverines. If that happens and Michigan has a balanced attack, I love Michigan's chances to get it done. And so I think that's the blueprint for success. Take what you did against Northwestern, do it against Maryland, and then go do it again against Ohio State. And I think you take your chances with that. Jared, I mean, in terms of what you think the blueprint is to win that game, I know that we've talked about that whoever wins the rushing battle wins that game almost every single time. But when you think about the blueprint to beat Ohio State, like how do you envision that looking?
I mean, I'll tell you, I've been watching Ohio State the last couple of weeks, like entire game. I think that you got to get Julian's.
Can you clarify? It's not because you're an Ohio State fan. It's because you're a degenerate and you gamble on the games. I just want people to.
Yeah, I was gambling because Ohio State just throws the ball and it's super easy. Anyways, not an Ohio State fan. I don't even know how do you do it. Anyways, so I think right there, Ralph Lewis nailed it. Right, exactly what I was going to say, Ralph, at 7:14. Pressure saying, I'm telling you, I've watched the kid never ends up getting hit. And I think a couple hits from a big guy, Derek Moore, Jay Sean coming off the edge, planting this kid. He's so supremely confident in those receivers, Tate and Smith, that I think he's gonna start rushing that throw. He's still going to throw it. He does not eat the ball. He puts it out there because he's got the best football player in the country. And I think he's going to, if we can get to him, I think he's going to turn the ball over. I think he's had so much time, and now he's so confident in these guys. And God forbid, he might just chuck it up as he's getting sacked, and Smith comes down with it and runs for 80 yards because he's that damn good. But I think you got to get that kid on the ground. And, he's a redshirt freshman, right? He's not, or maybe he's classified as a sophomore this year, but this is his first year, real year of playing. And, I think that you put pressure on him, and I think that's what it is, man. I think turnovers, we got to get turnovers. And I think that kid's ripe to do it. It's been so easy for him these last 2 games. I'm like, man, no wonder he's completing like 84% of his passes. Yeah, because he stands there for 45 minutes, sends out a tweet, I'm about to throw it to Smith, then throws it to Smith, confirms the tweet, and still doesn't get hit. Like, it's incredible.
It looks really, really easy. I mean, outside of the rushing game, which has some issues with Ohio State, but through the air, everything just looks real easy. And Julian Sain looks real cool and calm and collective in the pocket.
They played one good defense, right? Texas. And it looked tough for them. It looked a little bit tough for them. Yeah. I think you guys correct me again. I think it was 14-7. Like, they did not move. They haven't played anybody really good since then. It was a defense that could even do shit. So, yeah, as good as our defense isn't compared to, in past years, it's still going to be the second best defense they've faced, I think.
Yeah, and that mental aspect of the whole thing is real. And I think even as fans, we felt that. Like, remember what it was like prior to 2021? Like, think about going through the 2019 season, what it felt like as a Michigan fan playing Ohio State. It felt like you just needed to prepare yourself every single year for an annual ass whooping that was coming for the better part of 2 decades. And so Ohio State for so long felt like this unconquerable mountain. Like, maybe you might get lucky and be able to do something. But I just remember as a fan, I never went into that game thinking Michigan had a chance to win it, because you got accustomed to the same type of outcome every single year. And I think that there's a little bit of that going on in Columbus right now where, are you extremely confident in the team you have? And are you coming off of a national championship win? All of that is true. But again, if you get into Ann Arbor and this is a 1-score game in the 4th quarter, I think things are going to tighten up a little bit. It's not just going to be about that game. It's going to be about the history. It's going to be about the last 4 years. I think you're going to see a team that starts to play a little bit tight. And to your point, Jared, Ohio State really hasn't been in a game like that all year long. And so we don't know how they're going to react to that. We don't know how Julian Sain's going to react to Jayshon Barham coming hard off the corner and laying the wood on him. Like, we don't know how is he going to respond to that. We don't know how Jeremiah Smith is going to respond to maybe getting locked up a little bit, maybe getting frustrated, maybe having a corner like Zeke Berry or Jair Hill get a little bit physical with him. Maybe Jeremiah Smith finally gets called for an OPI. We don't know how they're going to react in those things. But I can say this confidently. I think, at least on the mental side of things, I think the Michigan Wolverines are going to be fully prepared for that game. We'll see how it transpires on the field, once the whistle blows and the ball is kicked. But I think mentally, I don't care what the spread is and what Vegas is saying. Mentally, Michigan's got to be favored slightly in that one, if for no other reason, just because they've done it now 4 years in a row. So what's a 5th? Let's see. Man, kind of went on a rant about that too.
You've been ranting a little bit.
I'm sorry. It's been a week since we were on the last live. It's your fault.
This is my fault.
Brian Block from the YouTube page says OSU Athletics ran a $30 million deficit last year. So, hey, maybe that's why they're not pushing back on this private equity deal. They're broke. East Lansing's broke. Columbus is broke. I gotta add to this last thing, because again, a lot of the fans are thinking like me, which means they're super smart and they're talking about Julian Sain getting hit. If you had to guess, I just looked it up. How many times do you think Julian Sain has been sacked this year? This is an incredible number. Well, unlike you, I don't spend a lot of time watching Ohio State. I've tuned in here and there every now and then. I don't know that I've seen him sit, I don't know, 3 times.
You're a god.
Is it right? 3 times?
3 times, dude. Are you kidding me? 3 times?
You know what? Maybe
that's incredible. That's what I'm saying. So that's what I agree. 3, 4. Yeah, everybody's right there. 3, 4. So these fans know, Chris, just like you.
This is a smart group,
man. That is a smart group.
I'm a smart guy. This is a smart group.
I think this kid weighs about 190 pounds soaking wet. We've seen Jayshon and Derek Moore up close. I'm telling you, dude, this kid gets hit. It's not going to be, and it's going to be nice and cold. Landing on that frozen ground in the big house. Dude,
you get Jimmy Rolder or Ernest Hausman shooting through the gap. It's going to be it's going to be
on Wing Helmet Field at the big house. Come on.
You know what? I saw CJ say that. This is the
I love it.
The only branding on that field I would accept.
We will accept that.
that big beautiful logo right on the field.
Actually makes sense.
I will take that. It does make sense, doesn't it? I just need to get like a loan of like, how much do you think it would cost to get your logo on Michigan's field for a season?
I can't.
I don't know. Are we talking $2-3 million? Are we talking like $100 million? I don't know.
I think you're 9 figures.
I remember I tried to get the rights to be able to share video from the games, like actual video from the games. And I went through the process of doing that. Long story short, you could only do up to, I think it's 120 seconds. So 2 minutes per game for all the home games. There was like 6 games that season or something. It was like 40 grand. 40 grand to be able to use my own video, not somebody else's video, my own video.
We did that when we were doing the NIL with the National Guard, right? We were using advertising, and they kind of came at us the same way, and they wanted like, what was yours? 40 grand?
I think it was right around 40. I know it was too much.
That's what they wanted too, and so I just responded. I said, "Well, we're the federal government, so good luck. Go ahead and sue us." We also have the IRS. We'll start looking into all your shit.
Go ahead and try.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
I like Jacob Morris's at 720. It's Ohio State, but I think it's a good question to ask.
Let's see. Let me get down to 720. This is why I feel like we need a person, man. I've been ranting so long that I really haven't been reading too much of these. Jacob Morris, 720 from the Facebook page. He says, with Michigan blitzing like they are we worried about them blitzing too much against Ohio State? Jared, I'll throw that to you. Are you worried that Michigan's going to be too aggressive with the blitz against Ohio State and get burned?
Yeah, I mean, they've done it in a few games we've talked about, right? They just blitz. USC was like, we know you're going to blitz, so we're just going to dump it off. Now,
those quick hitters were killer.
Just destroying us, right? And you got Smith going deep. You got the Carnell Tates right there. I think, I don't know if I'm worried about it, because I think Wink has shown that he does change it up for Ohio State, right? He does a little bit different game plan. He understands that Ohio State is a different animal. I'm more worried about the flip side of it, Ohio State's defense. I think Matt Patricia has done a fantastic job. I threw up my mouth as a Lions fan saying that, but I think he's done a fantastic job with their defense, and he's put out some pretty phenomenal game plans, and he's a very smart guy, rocket scientist, believe it or not. But he is literally, isn't that crazy? It's incredible. From one doctor to the other, I guess. But I'm not worried about it. I think Michigan has shown lately, if it was Don Brown of old, I'd be worried, because Don Brown refused to adapt.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to. I think they're gonna do some they're gonna give him some looks, because the kid's a young quarterback no matter what. So I think you'll see some guys fake the blitz, drop back. They're gonna try to confuse him. He's a young kid. He's a 19-year-old kid at the end of the day, not a lot of experience. But I'm not concerned that they're gonna blitz too much.
Same. I mean, I have a lot of confidence in Wink Martindale in this defense. I think that they will be ready for November 29th. I think that they'll be just fine. Tyrone says, bite your tongue. And I don't know if this is in relation to the next Does something happen here that I might have missed? Tyrone says, bite your tongue. And then Matt Stipe from the Facebook page asked Brian Petrosky, do you think Chris is slightly jealous of his hair? What does this even mean? What is this
about Ryan Day again? I think they're just, if we don't go through a pod without people making fun of you, because people don't realize that you're bald.
Every damn show, Jared. Every show. I hope you understand. Listen, no,
just one time, shock them, shock the fans.
Just show up here with like a horseshoe, like not just shuffle, but like a real, done up horseshoe where it's kind of like moosed on the sides and combed back a little bit.
Why haven't we been doing this? By we, I mean you.
I'm pretty sure my wife would leave if I did that. But I hope you understand. Listen, do you understand how difficult it is now to be bald? I can't go a single show without having to defend my baldness and my bald brethren. Like it's not an easy thing to have to deal with, Jared. I hope that this is like a good example of the struggle that people go.
I get my hair cut every Friday, Christopher. You ever thought about that? What about the other side?
I got to come.
What it looks like. I have so much of it. It's ridiculous.
That's the tragedy of it all. Like I got hair everywhere, but
where you want it,
where I would prefer to have it, but it's growing like crazy everywhere else. It's coming out of my ears, it's growing on my back. Started to get a couple little patches on my shoulder I had to take care of before we went to Chicago because there was a pool there. I'm like,
you a Sasquatch? What are you doing?
There's something wrong. If I could just pluck a few out in the back and plug them in the front.
Yep.
I'm sure there's somebody out there in Turkey doing that. Have you seen that? There's a lot of people that go overseas and get those hair things done. They come back looking. I mean, it looks awful for a while, but They end up looking good in the end.
Once you get that sponsorship that you just asked for, we'll send you over there.
That's who I really need as a sponsor, like a hair transplant thing. They get me looking right. Tell you, if I get hair, like it's gonna be long and flowy.
It's over for everybody.
I'm getting a convertible. It's over. It's over. Might get some highlights. Okay. I think we're once again
in school
going off the rails here. Ralph says, everybody, that's right. If you all could just donate to Winged Helmet Media, if for no other reason, so that I can afford a hair transplant, so I don't have to take the abuse every single day that we hop on here. Once again, it was a highly active show in the comments. I really do appreciate everybody that dropped in here. Jared, we've been going now for almost an hour and a half. We haven't dropped a feed yet, which is crazy. Is there anything that you feel like we need to get to before we hop off here? Is there anything that I might have missed?
Are we going to do score predictions?
I don't know. Okay, let's do score prediction here.
Come on, what are you doing? Fans want it.
I'm going to have to do this off the dome, off the top of the head, because I haven't really thought about it. But there was a camera guy who I think was there. I think he was like local to Chicago. And he asked me, he's like, hey, how's Michigan's offense? Like, are they good? What can you count on them for? And I'm like, I don't know. You can count on about 24, 27 points out of this offense. And look what ended up happening, right? It was 24-22 Michigan. And so I think that's where I'm at for the Maryland game. I think we're not going to see necessarily an offensive explosion, but I do think I'm going to go Michigan. The same thing I feel like I've done for like the last few weeks now. Michigan 27, Maryland 13. 27-13, good guys.
I was at 27-10. Yep. I think Maryland will score a touchdown. I think Michigan will probably have a turnover. They're just freshmen. It's going to happen. And they'll hold them to a field goal. But it feels like a 27-10 game. Comfortable.
Yeah. Good, easy win. Everybody gets out healthy. I mean, dude,
that's what we want. Yeah.
Maybe we'll see a little bit of Jaden Davis in the game at some point in time. Maybe we'll see a lot of these reserves getting some work. But that's the biggest thing is you want to see Michigan get this one comfortably and then get on to Ohio State week with with a fully healthy roster. Real quick, if he's able, would you even play Jordan Marshall Saturday on the road against the Terps?
I don't think you start with him. No, I think if you have to, I think Jordan Marshall's a have to play, like because you got to win that game. Like you said, everything's in front of him still. It's all there. So if you have to, you have to. And I think Jordan Marshall's that type of guy. He'll load up that flat jacket that they can put on, and I think he'll play. But I don't think you start with him. I wouldn't. But that's
don't even put him on the plane. Keep him back in Ann Arbor. Rely on
the game.
I understand you got to win the game, and you can lean on Jasper Parker. You can lean on You can lean on Max Bredesen, who might be getting some carries.
Hate that idea.
Are you aware that he has not carried the ball yet in his entire collegiate career? That's insane.
Is he hasn't carried or he hasn't scored a touchdown?
If the statistic page that I'm looking at is incorrect,
he's never carried.
From what I've seen, he's never carried the ball.
So in a game that we need to win, we're going to give it to a guy who's never carried the ball. Now what could go wrong there? Nothing.
It's Maryland. They've lost 6 straight. They can't beat anybody. They haven't won a Big Ten game yet. It's Maryland. They're not who you think they are, Jared. You don't have to be afraid of the Terrapins. Just be a nice, easy, comfortable Michigan Wolverines on the road. but we'll see. I'm not going to be in College Park this weekend. I am going to be staying in Ann Arbor. I'm going to be kicking up my feet and watching it on the couch, which I do love being able to do that because I get to actually watch it along live with you guys and have the same reactions, and we can sort of have some dialogue on social media. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Jared, you and I, in a couple of days, we've got some things going on where we're going to go check out some cool things that are in relation to the Ohio State game. We'll talk a little bit more about. Can I say just a little bit? Can I say a little bit?
I was going to tease it too. I just got a text from some of the folks that we're going to go work with, and they said when you see it in person, it's going to blow your mind. That's all they said to me. I said, I've never. I want to get you tease it how you want. It's your thing.
Okay. It's not a huge deal. It's not a huge deal, but Jared and I are going to be going over to what's the name of the base?
Selfridge Air Base.
Selfridge Air Base. And for the Ohio State game, there's going to be how many of these things? What's the quantity?
5.
There's going to be 5. 5, and I want to make sure I get this right. Hold on, let me pull it up. There's going to be 5. Jared, let me pull up our text messages here because I want to get it right. There's going to be 5 F-15EX Eagle 2s. I hope we got that right. 5 F-15EX Eagle 2s. They're going to do the flyover for the Ohio State game, and Jared and I are going to go over there to Selfridge, and we're going to check these things out in person. I know you said they're not going to let me fly one, but I plan on getting in the cockpit and seeing if I can get it off the ground. We'll talk about that offline. But we're going to go down and we're going to check out these jets. And we're also going to be bringing you some content. So maybe you'll get like an inside look at these things. We're going to be talking to some of the guys that are planning on doing the flyover and operating it. It should be a really cool thing that we're going to be able to bring you next week. So I'm excited for that. But Jared, in the meantime, we got to get past those terrifying Terrapins. I think Michigan does it this weekend, 27-13. I do appreciate everybody in the comment section being involved. Once again, it was highly active. It's a smart group here. It's a good-looking group that we have here, Jared. And we will be back on, unless you've got another trip to like Puerto Rico or Buenos Aires or wherever you're going. Okay, all right. So you will be in pocket, which means we will be back on Monday at 6 p.m. Until then, appreciate all you guys. We will talk soon.